I'm going to touch base on a couple things that you're not going to have hands-on with today. It's really just some fundamental knife skills, some fundamental techniques that you can use. After that, we'll go ahead and do a little bit of an overview of the hands-on portion that you're going to have. At some point, we'll take a break this afternoon. But with that hands-on portion, once it gets down to the point where you're doing it, it'll be that Simon Says. It means that I'll talk about a particular cut. You guys will all come up around. We'll work on that particular cut. You'll go back to your area, finish that cut. We'll put up the products that we cut from that point, continue on to the next cut. And so that way, again, today, things I'm focusing on: knife safety, holding your knife correctly, holding your guide hand correctly, being comfortable with your knife. I'm not expecting like perfect knife skills today. You earn that through practice. But really working on the safety part of it today. But what we're going to talk about here first are some of those small things and talk about some of the ingredients. So, here we have three types of citrus. We got the orange, the lemon, the lime. And what we talked about in class a little bit this afternoon and previously was, we use this for a number of different things. In this class and in your future classes here, if you're looking for lemon juice or lime juice, I'll tell you, it's in the lemon or the lime. You have to squeeze them yourself. Orange juice is the only thing we occasionally make a change on. If you need a small amount, you'll find it in the orange. For breakfast cookery, where we'll actually have orange juice, or some weeks where we'll need a couple quarts, we'll purchase those. But for the most part, you're looking for that. But also remember, what's the outside color of this called? Anybody know that? Yeah, it's the zest. And the zest is very important. The zest contains a lot of oils. Oils in our spices mean flavor. And we often treat the zest almost like a spice in that we're using it for seasoning, but that contains a lot of important oil. The white portion underneath the zest is the part we don't want. That's the pith. It's very bitter. Nobody tastes something bitter. Rarely do people taste something bitter and go, love it, got to have some more of that. So what we're going to look at is the zest. And then the inside of it, where the juice is also where there's some pulp, and we can get at that and do a supreme, which is cutting a portion of the segment out without any of the pith of the membrane as a part of it. And so with that, we have a couple tools we can use. You guys all have peelers. Your kit should have come with a microplaner. Microplaner really comes from the woodworking industry, but it's just got little micro razor blades and allows us to get that outside colored portion off that we want. So let's say hypothetically, we are going to infuse a liquid with some flavor. We can use a peeler to take off big chunks of zest. And so, maybe we're mulling some wine or some apple juice, or making like a mulled cider, for the winter season. We could take off big chunks of zest like this, use this for the flavor, or if we wanted to grind this to a paste, this is easier to take it off and grind to a paste. You just want to make sure you don't want to take too much of that pith with it. The other tool we have, which is the microplaner, and the microplaner works well for the zest. It also works well for some hard spices like nutmeg or cinnamon, and can even work for hard cheeses. So if you're a huge fan of Parmesan, works great for this. Soft cheese or semi-hard cheese, like maybe a younger cheddar or even a provolone, they're a little bit too high moisture for something like this. But a real hard cheese works well. But what we want to do is just kind of rotate around the citrus fruit, and you can see we're just taking that very outside portion off where it's colored. And from that point, we just create this real nice fine shaving of that zest. And this is ready to go in a lot of the recipes, or if you want to use this as a flavoring and you don't want to be able to see it or taste it, get a chunk of it, you could chop this even finer. So if you're maybe making cheesecake and you want a little bit of that lemon zest in there for flavor, but you don't want somebody to see it or get a chunk of it when they're eating it, you could chop it a little bit finer. But whenever you're using the juice, always look to use the zest. So if you're like, man, that orange marinade that I make from that pork tenderloin is the best, look to take advantage of the zest. It's going to bring a lot of those aromatic qualities of the citrus fruit that you want. All right, so we'll continue on. So the zest portion, we have that. To cut a supreme, what we're trying to do is take out the segments without there being any of the pulp or membrane as a part of that. And this same technique is something we'll see later on when we cut cantaloupe and honeydew, different types of melons. And that first cut is to cut the top and the bottom. And what this does for us is takes off a portion of the skin, but it also gives us a flat surface to work with. So now that round fruit won't try to roll away from us when we're cutting it. And then you're just going to cut around, in this case the orange, just to cut away that pith. But this same exact technique for, again, a cantaloupe or a honeydew work really well. It's just bigger. So, maybe we make that marinade and we have a couple extra oranges left and we want to incorporate that as a part of the finished dish. We could go ahead and take the oranges and cut them into segments and use that as a garnish or use that in the finished dish. So we'll just take a container here, and you could certainly go to a smaller knife if you're working in hand. A paring knife is probably more appropriate. So I'll just grab that from down here. But we're just going to cut between the membrane, take out the little supremes, and again, the benefit of this is it's nice, it's palatable, there's none of that tougher membrane or bitter portion of the pith is a part of it. If there's any seeds, you'll have to cut that out or take those out as you're doing it. If I was cutting these for a salad, what would I need on my hands? Gloves. All right, because that's something that wouldn't be cooked. So we want to work a little bit more sanitary or work a little bit different, be conscientious with that, and maybe wear some gloves. Just being careful when you're cutting towards your hand. But now we're left with, pretty much the membrane. We can go ahead and give this a squeeze, take out the rest of the juice that's there. That way when we're storing these little supremes, the juice will be on it. And that way it'll help prevent them from drying out. And also we could use that juice for another part of the preparation. So maybe that pork tenderloin's been grilled, and we have a little sauce. We just put this in at the sauce at the end, and you have those little segments in there as a part of it, and it works out really nice. So that's one thing. Let me go ahead and straighten up this area a little bit. You guys all should have a little dough scraper on your station as well. And these dough scrapers are just nice to maybe clean or move things around your cutting board. So if we're doing a little quick cleanup, you'll have that to straighten up your area. So again, it goes into that mise en place, organization. So how many of you like garlic? Okay. I like garlic too, and that's going to be our next part of the process here. 99% of the time you're looking for garlic here, it looks like this. It's the whole head of garlic. Occasionally in a class where we're producing a lot of volume and we need a lot of garlic, we might purchase peeled garlic, but this is where we're going to start with. So anybody ever use this before? How do you get it out of the papery coating on the outside? Yeah, you can hit it. You can kind of put it where you're pushing on the root end, put some pressure on it. You just one hand through the other and you put your weight on it, and then you can go ahead and start to peel out these individual cloves and remove a lot of that papery portion that you don't want. And this can be a little bit bitter, although if you really had a lot of garlic to use, and especially if you have some smaller cloves, you could put this in a broth if you wanted to, or sometimes you could even put it in a sauce preparation as long as you're going to strain all that out. You just want to be conscientious of how much you put there, because it's not uncommon. Like if I have a whole head of garlic like that, I might just crush it. Maybe I'm making, I don't know, maybe it's artichoke sauce, artichoke cream sauce for some pasta that I'm going to puree and strain out. Could just go ahead and crush up some of these with the paper on it, be all right. But from this point, what do? Do you just cut it up? Okay, we're gonna smack it with the side of the knife, and certainly safety here is a big concern because you have a sharp edge on this knife, gets away from you, it could cut you. So what I'm doing is I'm placing the knife on top, hitting with the palm of my hand, making sure my fingers are on the way, but you just kind of smack it. If you had a lot of garlic to do, you could certainly use a little meat mallet, and that will help out and certainly reduce the risk of you hurting yourself. But as long as your hand's moving and your knife's not moving, you'll be all right. I think I can hit that one. So hitting that, what it does is it crushes the clove a little bit and loosens that paper coating on the outside of the garlic. And so we could just go through then, peel the garlic. Again, you could use garlic in this form, especially if you want the flavor, but you don't necessarily want hunks of garlic in there. Or maybe there's garlic lovers and they really go after that garlic clove. You can certainly use that. Paring knife can help out with this too. Sometimes your garlic clove starts to sprout and you'll get these green portions in it, or you might have a real tough kind of hard part on the stem end, and you can just kind of peel. Use your paring knife almost like you do your fingernails just to help get at all the material here to get it off. So from this point, chopping it's very easy. We could just chop it with a knife. Some people in doing large volumes would put this in a food processor. A lot of times when I chop it like that, I might put a little oil on it and the oil isn't necessarily there to protect it, but it helps out if you have a lot of chopped garlic that you're putting in a pan. The oil is going to help it spread out a little bit when you put it in the pan. Anybody ever buy the pre-chopped garlic? Okay, I mean, it's good, it's a convenient product, but you know, it's kind of in a brine, and a lot of times when you put that in the pan, it kind of like sticks right there, doesn't go anywhere, and has a tendency to kind of burn or create a burn spot. And garlic, when it burns, becomes very bitter, so that's typically what you're trying to avoid whenever you're dealing with garlic. This is something, I didn't think about, but even later on when we go to peel our vegetables, you know, if you're peeling a lot of garlic, you could do this with your cutting board wrapped in plastic, just like we'll do when we peel our carrots. So that way, after all this is done, I have my garlic peeled and moved to the side, I could just pick up the plastic and, you know, remove all the little paper product from the garlic. And the reality of it is, I'm not cutting on the cutting board when I'm doing this, so that's fine. That's the only thing you want to avoid if you have plastic on your cutting board, is that you're using your knife and you're chopping, you know, something that's going to cut into the plastic and possibly get that plastic in your food. So we're just going to move all this paper product